We specialize in immigration law, so we do all types of immigration cases, all the way from removal defense to family petitions to employment visas to investment visas. We do the whole gamut of immigration. We basically had a departure from somebody that was in our Miami office. And so we had to fill that position. We had to fill the paralegal position. And in terms of where the market was at that time and the quality of candidates that we were finding for what the market wanted, it just seemed as though we weren't getting bang for our buck, basically. And so I was looking into other options, and remote positions weren't anything that scared me. Prior to COVID, we had already started working in the office remotely at least one day a week with our staff. And so everything that we already had at our firm was already digitized. And so we've always done a big focus on being able to access everything from our cases from anywhere. And so bringing somebody on board, as long as they were qualified, didn't really matter where they were, because that was something that we were already operating in that way to begin with. And so that fear, at least for me, wasn't there in terms of not having somebody in the office. And so just looking at where the market was and what was available, I thought it would be a great option. And it has been. Basically, our staff was overworked, right? And so we had to fill that position. And then we hadn't filled the position post-COVID because of fears that we had in the business of where the business might be going. Just post-COVID, I think business worries across the board. And so we hadn't filled that position. It got to the point that we obviously had to fill it. And looking into where the market was locally, it just seemed like a better option to go with somebody that was remote. And that's when I found out about Stafi, and we had our conversations, and we kind of went from there. But we had to fill that position because our local staff was just being overworked. We had too much work on their shoulders, and we needed somebody to come in and relieve some of that work. I had been looking around a little bit to see what was out there, and I think their pricing was reasonable. I liked the focus that they had, especially on what we were doing. It seemed as though the candidates that were being brought to me had some sort of experience already in the field, which I thought was important. And so it wasn't like we were having to teach somebody from scratch what we did. So I think that was very helpful. And basically we clicked. You guys were from the beginning, you guys were very adaptive to what we needed in terms of interviewing people and being very supportive. And so I think it was just a great fit. You guys basically have provided me now with two individuals that work for us remotely. We have one person in Argentina and we have one person in Nicaragua. Both in different positions, one as a receptionist and one as a paralegal. It's allowed us basically to expand very quickly in those positions and fill those positions. So in terms of the initial position that we had with the paralegal, that was a position that had been open for a while, but we had been needing to fill it. And we were able to do that very quickly, basically overnight. And then we had our receptionist depart from our Miami office, and it was a couple emails to you guys, and you guys were already putting me in touch with a couple candidates to take a look at. And I think we interviewed them the next day, and they began working the day after that. So I think it's been a very quick turnaround. You guys have been there for what we need in terms of expansion or filling those positions. And the responsiveness has been very good. Any issues that we've had, you guys have taken care of, which has been great. And you guys are hounding me more than I'm hounding you, which is good in terms of trying to get my feedback. But it's great to know that you guys are always trying to check up and see if we're getting what we need fulfilled from the people that we have stationed with us. Whenever you onboard anybody, there's a little bit of an adjustment period for staff. But once that person gets up and running, it does alleviate a lot of the need that we had. So personally for us, the biggest result that we got was we were able to take cases off of the shoulders of some of our paralegals. And what we did was we restructured the way that we handle cases. And so what we did was we took the new person that we got from Stafi as a paralegal, and we use them as the initial contact with clients, the initial person to gather information and documents and kind of prepare the first parts of the case. So then our more experienced paralegals could finish those cases. And so what it's done is it's allowed our paralegals to focus, our in-office paralegals to focus on completing cases and getting cases sent out, for example, and not have to worry about that initial, intake, document collection, information collection from clients that can be a little bit burdensome. And so what we did was we just kind of restructured the way that we operate in the office. Instead of one person being the one that handles the case from start to finish, we kind of split it up. And that's allowed us to have people focus more on certain tasks. And ultimately what it's done is it's reduced the amount of time that we spend working on cases. Because people have very structured roles in terms of what they're doing case by case. The value has been great. I mean, just in terms of getting somebody that was qualified and ready to go, we haven't had any issues in terms of attendance or anything like that. I know those are always fears whenever you hire anybody, right? We haven't had any issues with that. The value also, I mean, just in terms of money, by having this person working as a contractor, we don't have to pay payroll taxes. In terms of where the market is right now for a paralegal, I'm basically paying a lot less than I would pay if I had somebody in my office, and it's somebody that I can trust and is qualified. And so when we look at it just from every perspective, it's something that's worked. And moving forward, I think we've decided internally as a firm that it's something that we're going to continue to do, just because it works very well, and all those initial fears that we had aren't there. And so I think moving forward, any expansion that we do will probably be this way. One, because the market doesn't seem to be changing, and it is very hard to find qualified candidates on your own. When you're a law firm owner, it's tough to put ads out and have to interview people, go through resumes and things like that. Here, I basically sent an email to Stafi and I said, this is what I need. And the next day I had a couple resumes in my inbox to take a look at. We had Zoom calls scheduled where we could interview people back to back to back. And it's very, very easy to onboard from then on. And so for us personally as a firm, I think it's something that we're going to continue to use in today's market. Not only the market, but in today's world, there's absolutely no reason why you can't have somebody working remotely. If you're using technology on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't really change much of your operations. You just have to be a little bit open-minded, and using partners like Stafi, it becomes very easy to expand your business and to fill holes in your existing business that might be a little bit more difficult if you have to go out and hire somebody that's local. You have to interview, you have to advertise, and then, as we all know, when you post an offer on Indeed or anything like that, you end up getting 150 resumes from people that don't qualify, and the amount of man hours it takes to go through that and then interview people that really aren't interested or are just shopping around to see who's going to offer them the best money and things like that aren't necessarily qualified to begin with. It really is a stress reliever to know that I can send a couple emails and get that response. I mean, I can tell you from experience, we recently had somebody leave our office. The first thing I did when she told me that she was leaving and gave me 2 weeks notice was send an email to Stafi. And I told them, this is what I need. This is the start date that I need them by. Send me the resumes for people that I can take a look at, and let's go from there, because that was the way that we were going to fill that position. And I think that's something that's going to continue as we move forward.